If you're feeling tired and drained all the time, then you may be suffering from lockdown fatigue. Now, aside from the tiredness and feeling drained, you may also be lacking in motivation, focus, feeling generally moody, and your sleep may also be affected as well. If this sounds like it might be you, then stay tuned because I'm going to go through the 5 reasons why you may be experiencing lockdown fatigue. Hi everyone, welcome back to Finding Stardust. On this channel, we empower INFJs, empaths, and highly sensitive people to build a life they truly love. My name is Sang, and I'm going to go through the 5 reasons with you today. The 5th reason may be that we are doing a lot less. And contrary to what we may think, less activity doesn't actually increase our energy, but it can actually decrease our energy levels. So let me just give you an example. Pre-COVID and pre-lockdown, many of us would have had more work and societal social structures. So for example, if you work in an office, you would have been commuting to the office, you would have had your lunch break, you would have had lots of tea breaks where you're walking to the kitchen or the pantry to make yourself a cup of tea. Now, all of these little activities actually add up. And if you were to compare the steps that you took then, you could have easily accumulated 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day just from that activity of going to work, being out and about and then traveling home. If you actually count the number of steps that you do now from, let's say, the bedroom to the living room to the kitchen and then kind of back again, then you'll be lucky to accumulate maybe 500 to 1,000 steps a day. So what's happening is that we're using our bodies a lot less, we're using our muscles a lot less, and they're starting to probably stagnate if we don't have a routine in place to actually give ourselves a good workout. Because we are less active, the potential energy that's within our body is staying stuck and stagnant rather than being converted into actual energy. The 4th reason is loneliness. With the pandemic and the lockdowns in particular, all of us are experiencing on some level increased solitude and isolation. This has been particularly difficult for those extroverts who actually need and crave social stimulation and being around people because that's how they are energized. But even for the proper introverts amongst us who secretly, maybe not so secretly, really enjoyed the first and second lockdown, are actually finding this 3rd lockdown in the UK particularly difficult. Just because you are an introvert doesn't mean that you do not need social connection and social stimulation. It's just you need somewhat less of it. Did you know that loneliness can actually trigger the stress response in your body? That's the fight or flight response. And this is where your body releases cortisol. What cortisol does is it actually heightens your alertness, but it also keeps you in this state of tension, which may be why some of you and me are feeling more irritable and more moody than usual. Increased cortisol levels, especially if it's on a sustained basis over a long period of time, can really wreak havoc with our sleeping patterns because we may struggle to get to sleep, and that's why we stay up later and later scrolling on our phones, going on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and God knows what else. Also, when we're getting to sleep, our sleep is interrupted. So it's no wonder that we wake up and we're feeling a lot more tired and a lot more drained because it's very difficult to feel energized and inspired and, really in a good place when you haven't had good sleep for a sustained period of time. Even if you don't consciously feel it, your body actually registers the increased isolation and the loneliness as a severe threat to your survival, and therefore all of this stuff is going on in the background, and it's just something that I want you to be aware of. The 3rd reason is lack of purpose. When I talk about purpose, I don't necessarily mean the bigger life vision, compelling life vision kind of purpose thing, because frankly, not many people have necessarily found that yet. But I'm talking about the day-to-day sense of purpose, whereby you feel like you're contributing to something, whereby you feel like you're making progress, whereby you feel like you're interacting with others and working towards something. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, I know that a lot of people have been really affected. So they may have lost their job, or their job has been really significantly cut back, or if they have a business, that business may be really struggling in the current climate. And all of this is obviously going to have an impact on someone's sense of morale and confidence, because a lot of people's sense of identity is tied up with what they do for a living, so tied up with their job or with their business. And when that aspect of their life is not going well, it can have a really severe impact on their mental and emotional well-being. The second reason is a loss of routine. And we find with the pandemic and lockdown in particular, with many people working from home or not working, and also just not really having any organized social activities or organized sporting activities such as playing badminton or football or whatever, what we find is that everyone has a lot more freedom. And whilst initially we may have thought that, oh, this is such a good thing, having too much freedom is not a good thing, because having too much freedom and not enough structure means that very often our routine gets completely out of whack. You may find that your sleeping pattern has shifted, so you may be sleeping later and later and waking up later and later. I mean, everyone has a different way in which their routine is disrupted or affected, but I know for me that's been the case where I've just been shifting to a later and later bedtime and then waking up much later when I feel like, oh, the sun's about to set anytime soon. And all of this disruption to routine, and also maybe not eating at the right times, whereas before you might have had a set lunch break, so you would go for lunch between 12 and 2 and then have dinner between 6 and 8 or whatever it may be. Now you find, well, you can eat whenever you want, and so you may be overeating or just eating at the wrong times for your body. So with all of this disruption to your routine is actually having an impact on your circadian rhythm, which is the body's internal clock, which is roughly 24 hours. This body clock is set primarily by daylight and by nightfall. So light and dark really helps to regulate this rhythm. But if you're going to bed at the late time and being exposed to artificial light and then waking up late and then not getting exposure to daylight, then it's going to have a severe impact on your circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is also impacted by external environmental cues, such as when you wake up and brush your teeth, such as when you have your lunch, such as when you have your dinner. And now with all of those things just in a bit of a muddle and not in a particular structure or routine, your body clock is really, really confused. When the circadian rhythm is impacted, it feels like on a daily basis you are experiencing a mini jet lag. And some of the symptoms of jet lag are your sleep being affected, so you can't get to sleep or your sleep's interrupted. You may feel moody. It can affect your levels of hunger and also alertness, and it also can have a severe impact on your immune system. The final reason is that there is a lot of uncertainty and fear going on at the moment. So let me break it down. With regards to uncertainty, there's a lot of question marks like, am I going to survive this pandemic? When will this be over? What is the world going to be like when all of this is over? Am I losing connection with my friends and family? And I don't know, there's a million and one things that you may be thinking about consciously, or that's going on in your subconscious mind, because you are trying to make sense of something that is unprecedented. Like, you know, none of us have gone through something like this before, certainly not on this scale. And so it's a lot for the mind to take in. And because of that constant processing, it can be very draining and very tiring for you. Coupled with this uncertainty is that there's a pervading sense of fear, which I think many of us are picking up on. It's not just fear, it's this sense of fear and sorrow and the sense of, you know, there's a lot of suffering going on and a lot of negativity generally, especially if you're watching and following the news in a lot of detail. And I think most people are picking up on these vibes. But for INFJs, empaths, and highly sensitive people in particular, we're not only picking up on these vibes, but we may also be absorbing them and internalizing them. And it's something that's so pervasive that you go outside and you can feel like the atmosphere is thick with this sense of, fear and sorrow, and you're much more attuned to it and much more likely to absorb it than, let's say, somebody who is not an empath or a highly sensitive person. In this video, I just wanted to make you more aware of these different reasons, because once we have a heightened sense of self-awareness, then we'll be able to address them in a much more efficient and optimal way. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please give it a thumbs up if you found this video helpful, and please make sure you watch the next video. Bye.